Good morning. Let's call this meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
It was open, but now it's not. Okay, here we go. Commissioner Whitburn,
Here.
Commissioner Willis,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Becker,
Present.
Commissioner Desmond, absent, Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Mathis,
Present.
and Commissioner White.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Von Wilper is absent. Alternate Commissioner Drake is absent. And alternate Commissioner McCann is absent. And we have a quorum with 7 members present. Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Vice Chair Willis, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, we will begin with item 3. Item 3 is a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, and at this time we will be moving into closed session.
You can't take public comment on closed session.
We are going to take public comment on closed session before we move into closed session. And I see we have a couple of speaker slips here in the room, and we will begin with Frank Tassin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Mr. Sims. I'm Frank Tassin, representing the Port of San Diego today. Let me just first say that I know that LAFCO plays a very positive role in our community. I remember as a young 22-year-old coming up here from Imperial Beach at a time when we were right on the brink of insolvency and meeting with LAFCO and talking about the next steps ahead that might occur for our little beloved city. Since that time, a lot of things have happened. Currently, what we are dealing with is an issue between the State Lands Commission and LAFCO on who has jurisdictional authority over the Port of San Diego. We don't believe that LAFCO does. And in fact, for 62 years, it's been known through the legislation that created the Port District that state lands is a jurisdictional authority over us. But we have time to discuss all that. What I wanted to ask you for today, as you go into closed session, is that you call a timeout, that you approve a tolling agreement, allow all 3 parties to be able to engage in a conversation, and that we not be in a hurry to try to rush to judgment on what really does feel like a hostile takeover. So all we're asking for today is, as you go into closed session, is please approve the tolling agreement, allow us to go into conversations between the 3 parties, and let the chips fall where they may. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Scott Smith.
Mr. Chair, I was going to speak on the item if you come back and
Okay,
convene
very
it.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right. At this time, then, we will go into closed session. Thank you, everybody.
I'm ready.
We have completed our closed session, and
Sorry. Okay. Thanks.
we have completed our closed session and returned to open session at 8:45 a.m. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitburn,
Here.
Commissioner Willis.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson. Here. Commissioner Becker.
Here.
Commissioner Desmond,
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Mathis, Commissioner White,
Present.
alternate Commissioner Von Wilpert is absent, alternate Commissioner Drake is absent, alternate Commissioner McCann,
Present.
alternate Commissioner Vargas is absent, and we have a quorum with 8 members present.
Thank you, Clerk. In closed session, by a unanimous vote, the Commission approved entering into a tolling agreement with the Port of San Diego that extends through September 30th. Further details are available from staff as desired. As such, we will not be hearing item 8A, which is on the agenda today. However, we did receive a couple of speaker slips on that item, and if anybody still wishes to speak to that item, we will take those comments when we otherwise would get to item 8A on the agenda. We will move on then to item 4 on the agenda. I will excuse myself at this time and hand it off to our Vice Chair, Barry Willis.
All right, so we're back. We are on agenda review and exec. Keem, do you want to go over the executive?
So with respect to the agenda, everything holds. In fact, we don't even have any supplemental correspondence. So everything that's posted is good to go.
So ask for approval. Do you have a motion to approve?
No approval.
Oh, no, none,
unless
no.
there's any changes requested by the commission.
Okay, so now we're open to agenda, public comment, and opportunity for public to request discussion on consent items. Do we have any slips or anybody come in through the Zoom?
Well, the Chair Whitburn had mentioned we were, so we were going to take up Agenda 8A comments when that item would had otherwise be heard. But Vice Chair, if you'd like to take that up now.
No, we'll do it at 8
Okay.
when it comes up. Okay. Right, item 5. Any comments from the public on,
We have no online comments.
okay. Any other comments for item 5? Otherwise, we'll move on to the consent items. Do I hear a motion on approving the consent items?
I move to approve the consent items.
Do we have a second? Joe McKenzie, second, okay. Is this a roll call vote or just roll call vote?
Roll call.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Anderson,
Oh, you left.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Mathis,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
and Commissioner Willis.
Yes.
So we have 6 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to 7A, public hearing items, Commissioner disclosure of ex parte communications. Item 7A, Sky Ranch change of organizations. Is there a presentation on this?
There is. I'm going to ask Michaela to do the presentation, but we'll also ask through the Vice Chair if there are any ex parte communications material.
Do you receive anything via the internet or speaker slips or?
No speaker slips, and I don't see anyone flagging ex parte communications. So, Michaela, it is all yours.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Vice Chair Willis and fellow commissioners. For the record, Michaela Peters, Analyst 1. Before the commission and as part of a notice hearing is a proposal filed with the Padre Dam Municipal Water District seeking LAFCO's approval to detach a little less than 30 contiguous acres from the Helix Water District within the city of Santee and as part of the Sky Ranch subdivision. The proposal's purpose is to enact a boundary cleanup and eliminate an existing overlap between Padre Dam and Helix, and in doing so, better align the respective service areas to be consistent with current and planned infrastructure, Specifically, even though the lands are in Helix, Padre is the one that has built the infrastructure and provides both water and wastewater to the affected territory. Additionally, and while Padre is the applicant, Helix has been championing the proposal given their interest in ensuring future elections are limited to actual district ratepayers. With the agency's consensus aside, the proposal still requires LAFCO independently assess the proposal under statute and policy and make sure that all the I's are dotted. In this case, this includes addressing the need for a conforming sphere action and the reason for the added formality with the commission to consider the proposal a public hearing rather than part of your consent calendar. As for the proposal details, the entire affected territory is shown on the screen, and you can see that there are all or portions of the 38 legal parcels that have been developed, most notably with 27 single-family residences. There's also some dedicated open space and public right-of-way segments included in the affected territory. As for the administrative review performed by staff, all statutory and local policies check out and are detailed in the agenda report with one qualifier that merits attention from the Commission. This qualifier ties to the concurrent need for a sphere amendment to accommodate the requested boundary change. Notably, LAFCO Policy L106 says LAFCO shall perform a municipal service review to inform any sphere amendments if the last MSR on record is more than 5 years old, unless waived by the Commission. So in this case, staff believes a waiver is appropriate given the relatively modest size of the amendment, plus the overall certainty established in analyzing this specific proposal. Accordingly, and assuming the Commission is agreeable to the waiver, we recommend you proceed with all of the following actions. Approve the proposal as submitted along with a conforming sphere amendment to remove all of the lands from Padre. Approve standard conditions along with delegating protest to the EO, and approve exemption findings as specified under CEQA. So with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I'm open to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Just real quickly, Mr. Vice Chair. So I know you've probably already said it, but I just want to make sure both parties are in agreement. There's no feuding. There's no lawsuits being offered. They all think this is a great thing to do, right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I think I beat you.
Go ahead.
Very good. And then, Vice Chair, just to confirm, I know we don't have any speaker requests in the audience, but Michaela, who's double dutying as clerk today, if you can confirm if there were any email comments.
We have no email comments. Got it.
Roll call vote, yes, thank you. Wow. Roll call vote. Roll call vote
Yep.
is, okay.
All right. Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Mathis, Commissioner White,
Yes.
and Commissioner Willis.
Yes.
We have 6 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
All right, item 7B, proposed final work plan and budget for 2024, 2025. Are you doing the review on this, Keen, or?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We'll ask Assistant EO Priscilla Mumpower to handle this.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Willis and Commissioners, Assistant Executive Officer Priscilla Mumpower on behalf of LAFCO staff. This noticed hearing is for the Commission to take up the last step in formally game planning for fiscal year 2025 with respect to LAFCO activities, and this involves adopting the draft resolution that is within your packets, which does 2 things. So 1, it approves a final work plan to direct resources over the next 12 months, and then it also approves the final budget to fund those directed resources. The Commission will recall that both documents were presented, discussed, and ultimately approved at the March meeting, at which point we opened a 45-day public comment period preceding that March meeting, with staff making separate presentations to the Special Districts Advisory Committee as well as the City's Advisory Committee. Now, both of those meetings generated some good discussions. No formal comments were generated, which is an outcome that staff sees as a positive and a win, given that we are increasing agency contributions, which I will detail shortly. So this context aside, I'd like to take the next few minutes to quickly offer up some highlights that are in both documents, and beginning with the proposed final work plan. So the work plan remains substantively intact from the March approval. It continues to identify 30 projects in priority order. There is one change, and this ties to commission feedback in March and involves recasting the top 2 priorities involving the municipal service review for the county water authority and the 4 healthcare districts in the county. So instead of them being numbered as 1 and 2, as you see up on the screen, they are now number 1A and number 1B. The remainder of the work plan is entirely the same, as shown up on the screen and on the next slide as well. Now, this includes a new municipal service review on Sandag and its housing and transportation functions. And this is number 12 as part of our medium priorities, as well as a new informational report on government homeless services in San Diego County and some potential alternatives, and then the demerits or merits therein, and that's number 15 on our medium priorities. Now, moving on to the proposed budget, it is summarized on this next screen, and it too is largely the same as the March approval, with the exception that we have increased the bottom line by 1%, which equals about $25,000. Now, this is done so to help fill 3 positions, and the reasoning for the additional percentage to help fill these positions is to allow us some more flexibility, given we have experienced a recent setback after the March meeting with the departure of our Analyst 2, Carol Ara-Neiman, to a local consulting firm, which, among other things, highlights the reality of a competitive market with respect to recruiting and keeping good employees. So this addition resets the proposed final budget to a total of $2.9 million. The operating portion of this is $2.4 million, and it represents a 7.4% overall increase, or $167,000, and relative to the current fiscal year. The overall increase is mostly tied to inflationary adjustments, plus some targeted improvements that we detailed in March. For example, the rising of professional services to reflect recent actuals. Now, also, as detailed in March, we're doing our best to curb the overall increase and the apportionments that go to the funding agencies by reducing our total full-time employee staff from 9 to 8, and doing so by eliminating the executive assistant position. So with these highlights noted, this completes my presentation, with the invitation, of course, to go into further detail as the commission sees fit. I'll now turn it back to Vice Chair Willis. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Priscilla. Any questions, comments from commissioners on this item 7B? Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, this is kind of a, perhaps a sleight of hand move, but there's no number 2 now. We have 1A, 1 and B on our work order. So I'd like to say we've moved Sandag up to that number 2 position that is vacant right now, given their legal in their FBI investigations here, the tolling money from the 125, the board wasn't told until about a year after that they realized that money was missing. I realize we're not a legal entity, but I do think an MSR is warranted on the Sandag, to take a look at that. I realize that's a big entity, it might mess up your scheduling, but there's a hole in this, there's no number 2, so that would be I'll make that as a motion.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
Well, Through the vice chair, we have the resources by way of the commission. This is how you prioritize your resources. So if that's the direction, we will have resources allocated. With that, I do just want to remind the vice chair
Yes.
to check to see if there's any public comment, both in the room or online.
Okay, so just to clarify, Sandag was number 12, so we're moving it to just to move it number 1. Is that what?
Number 2.
2, I'm sorry, number 2. Okay. Okay, are there any comments from online or? Yeah, right.
So then everything else will just
Number 12 to number 2.
move up after that. So that's, as I understand the motion.
Okay.
Unless you want to move Solana Beach up to 12.
There you go. Is that an amendment?
Okay. Would this be a roll call vote?
Yes. Was there any public?
Any comments, Michaela, or?
We have no online public
Okay.
comments.
All right, we'll go ahead and do the vote.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson? No. Commissioner Becker?
I'm not sure that we have the resources. I'm going to vote no.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Yes. Commissioner Mathis?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Yes.
Okay. We have 5 in favor, 2 oppose. The motion passes.
Very good.
All right, so now we're on to 7C.
And I'll quickly take that. So at the last meeting, I had telegraphed and we had provided voluntary notice that we were going to have a municipal service review presentation, at least in draft form, on Oceanside. We're still going through some comments, and then, of course, what the tipping point was, of course, the unfortunate incident at the pier, which negated the ability for the mayor, among others, to be able to make today's meeting. So we will bring this item for the commission at your next meeting. So just an update. No action.
Which brings us to our 8A item, for which we open it up. We do have a couple speakers slips. So Scott Smith, did you want to still speak?
Thanks.
item?
I'm working as special counsel to the port. The port chair was here too, but no, we don't need to speak unless you need to hear from us today. Thanks for the
Okay,
opportunity.
thank you. And we also have Marcos Bush.
Yes, good morning, Vice Chair Willis, staff, commission, members of the public. My name is Marcus Bush, and I'm a council member for the city of National City. So I appreciate the action that you guys took on the agreement with the port moving forward with the oversight in those discussions. I think that collaboration that needs to happen, because at the end of the day, we're all public agencies. I work for a public agency for the city of National City. LAFCO is a public agency, the port, all public agencies, and we need to be operating with transparency, with accountability. We need to make sure that all the discussions and decisions on matters that pertain to the public, that they're brought into the public light, that they're out in the open and they're not behind closed doors. And so the action that you all took, thank you, because that helps move that forward. And that isn't what's been happening with the Port of San Diego. That's not been happening at National City. There's been multiple Brown Act violations that the port has committed. They haven't been discussing whether it's AB 2783. That wasn't discussed, and they opposed it without having a public discussion, and then they opposed it, went to the state, and then after that had a public discussion about it. And so that needs to stop. Our port commissioner, there's an action item on the agenda tomorrow that the city council put on the agenda to remove our port commissioner. I'm telling you all, that is direct retaliation for her efforts supporting AB 2783, which she was the only vote, and she made a motion for it. That just had happened 2 weeks ago. She was accused. I wish Chair Franker Tassin was here, because I told him this to his face, and I will tell you out in the public that in one of the meetings, she made a motion to take action on a particular item. Didn't get a second. Another commissioner made an identical motion, And that motion passed. And she asked publicly, isn't that the same motion? They said yes. So Commissioner Naranjo asked Chair Tassin, well, why did that happen? He said it was because she's been working, she accused her, Sandy, of working directly with LAFCO staff and LAFCO commissioners on oversight. And you heard how Chair Tassin described it as a hostile takeover, right? So that's what they're doing. It was direct retaliation for 2783, and because they accused her of LAFCO trying to take over. And so, I ask for your guys' oversight, your collaboration. Commissioner Desmond, you brought up Sandag and how you weren't told about, communicated with from this public agency about decisions being made. That same thing is happening with the port behind closed doors. But, and they've been talking to our council members and telling them to remove Sandy. And these discussions haven't been public, and they need to. So tomorrow, luckily, there'll be that opportunity. I invite you all to watch the council meeting at 6 to watch that discussion, to keep an eye on this. And I think your action you took today is a significant first step to doing that. But please hold them accountable, work with them, and collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. We're 30 minutes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, that was more than 3 minutes. 3. Okay. So we have, I'm sorry, having is this Laura Wilbertson Sinton? Okay, good. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, so.
No.
Okay.
It certainly isn't the first time. Thank you. Chairs and Vice Chair and Commissioners. First, Commissioner Becker, I'm sure you've heard this before, but you are a dead ringer for Tina Friend, the Coronado City Manager. You look like identical twins. I thought it was her when I first walked in the room. I was impressed. Thank you for hearing me today. I appreciate
the compliment.
It's the highest compliment. It is. She's gorgeous, and extremely competent. She's a great city manager. We're proud to have her there in Coronado. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I want to thank you for your vote in closed session and your vote prior. The Port of San Diego, their first guiding principle is to have a port that the public understands and trusts. And there's a dearth of that right now. And I firmly believe that LAFCO's assistance to them, your collaboration with them, will help bring that trust, public trust back. It's been corroded for a long time. And even their opposition to LAFCO's oversight has not been agendized, discussed publicly, nor voted on as a policy position by the full commission. So your oversight is exactly what the Port of San Diego needs. It is a special district with 5 cities that don't agree on a lot of things, and your oversight will help bring trust to that port. And I will give a nod to Commissioner McCann, Mayor McCann, because there's a beautiful jewel going up in Chula Vista, and there will be a lot of activity around that too. And I really believe that LAFCO's oversight and help with the port will bring trust in the revenues that come from that too. So thank you very much for your actions. We appreciate it very much as a community. By the way, I'm a community activist and entrepreneur, and StopTheSewage.org is my nonprofit. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. I guess that's it for now. No further.
Correct. No
Okay.
action.
Oh, unless there's anything online, I guess. Anything online?
No online
Okay.
comments.
On to 8B, an action item. Proposed policy on out-of-agency services. Keen.
Thank you. So we're going to ask Priscilla to handle this, and just as a heads up, we're going to roll up our sleeves at the end of the presentation because we had a couple of good suggestions from some commissioners. So for those watching, you'll see some policy in real time being made, hopefully. So Priscilla, thank you.
Thank you. Hello again, Commissioners. Priscilla Mumpower again on behalf of LAFCO staff with a presentation on a high priority work plan project. So the Commission will recall back in October of 2023, you received an update on the long in the making policy effort to establish formal standards and procedures in carrying out LAFCO's existing task in statute, and specifically Government Code Section 56133, to oversee cities and special districts providing new or extended services beyond their boundaries by either contracts or agreements, and involving everything and anything other than fire protection, which is contemplated in a different statute. During the October 2023 meeting, staff noted we were moving closer to resolving some differences with the Special Districts Advisory Committee, but we were still not there yet. So the commission provided some helpful feedback on where to hold the line and told us to carry on, but with an ask of staff to bring something back in actionable form before the end of the fiscal year. So here we are, and that is what is before you today. Now, with the Vice Chair's indulgence, I would like to offer up some added context regarding Section 5, Government Code Section 56133, which was chaptered back in 1994 by way of San Diego LAFCO's own Mike Gotch, and following his transition from LAFCO Executive Officer to later San Diego Council member, and then member of the California Assembly. 56133 was later reset by the legislature as part of the comprehensive rewrite of LAFCO law with an effective date of January 1st, 2001. And this directs all cities and special districts to request and receive written approval from LAFCOs before providing new or extended services, less certain exemptions. There are also two key distinctions within 56133 and with respect to when LAFCOs can say yes. So first, LAFCOs can say yes and approve an out-of-agency service request involving lands within an agency's sphere of influence in anticipation and expectation that they will later annex that same territory. LAFCOs can also say yes and approve out-of-agency service requests for lands beyond a sphere of influence if making a public health and safety finding. Now, on the surface, 56133 may seem straightforward, and this helps to explain why we don't have any formal policies on implementing the statute other than the existing delegation to the executive officer to approve out-of-agency service requests involving public health and safety emergencies, which separately has been a topic of some concern. A couple of relatively recent events, however, have prompted 56133 to come forward and to the forefront and highlight why establishing a formal policy and setting clear rules of engagement has made its way to the Commission's adopted work plan. And these include all of the following. So in 2017, the city of Coronado sued LAFCO over its determination that the expansion of an out-of-agency wastewater service provided by Imperial Beach to a Navy facility qualified for an exemption under statute. This was later settled, with all parties agreeing that LAFCO acted within its authority. In 2019, LAFCO issued a cease and desist order against Mission Resource Conservation District for improper out-of-agency services being provided within another RCD boundaries and without their consent. This ultimately resulted in the otherwise difficult unwinding of a Mission RCD contract with Sandag for Arundo control. Now, in 2023, LAFCO, via its executive officer, approved an emergency out-of-agency service request for Palomar Healthcare District and involving service to community clinics within the boundary of Tri-City Healthcare District. And this was done so on the premise of making a public health and safety finding, a decision that was not fully supported by the Commission. So with this context in mind, we return today, having done a final round of outreach, including taking the feedback received last from the Commission in October, and then taking it again back to the special districts and cities advisory committees. And we return to you with the proposed policy with Big Five, which are up on the screen. So the first is that it would make explicit the Commission's policy preference is to take up an out-of-agency service request on an exception basis when otherwise merited service expansions cannot be accommodated through the preferred annexation. It also establishes local definitions for what constitutes a new or extended service. It also expands on statutory exemptions provided in statute and includes local exceptions where formal LAFCO approval is not needed. It provides a no-cost process for local agencies to work with LAFCO in vetting and determining exemption eligibility. And it also recasts the executive officer's administrative approval to only apply to health and safety threats involving water and wastewater, with the item returning to the commission at the next meeting for information. All other requests, so not involving water and wastewater, would go directly to the commission, for example, like the item dealing with Palomar Healthcare District. So with these big five noted, we do have additional revisions proposed by a couple of commissioners in the review of the agenda packet. Staff agrees, and we do recommend adding to the approval. So the first revision is proposed by Commissioner Desmond, and it would add a third subsection to 3C. So this is not within your agenda packet, so I'm going to go ahead and read what's off the screen. So we would be adding, and then also, I think this is page, I apologize for the pause here, but I'd like to get us to the page where you all can see where the change would be made. Thank you, Commissioner McKenzie. It would be 180, and it would be it would take place on page 181, right under 2. And we would be adding language here that says, should the executive officer determine an inquiry does qualify for exemption, any city or special district that contains whether the sphere of influence or jurisdictional boundary, the affected territory shall be given immediate written notice and may appeal directly to the full commission. The appeal request must be made in writing and signed by the city manager or special district manager, and the appeal must be received within 3 business days of receiving the original notice from the executive officer. And then we have 2 additional, or a second set of revisions, and these are proposed by Commissioner McKenzie. So the first involves adding a subsection B to section 5. And in a race to be Commissioner McKenzie, page 183 of the packets. Okay, so this one would be, again, as B to section 5, and would read, all approval requests for out-of-agency services received under this part shall immediately be forwarded by LAFCO to any other city or special district whose sphere of influence or jurisdictional boundary contains the affected territory. There is another revision proposed as well, and that would be to section 7, which is found on page 183. And this would read, should an out-of-agency service request be approved, any other city or special district whose sphere of influence or jurisdictional boundary contains the affected territory may request reconsideration consistent with Rule 3.4, Section 2. Now, just to add, staff would recommend adding the reference to Rule 3.4 to the above as well, just to keep them consistent. So I hope I've captured the revisions requested accurately and succinctly, hopefully. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and I'll turn it over to first check in with the executive officer before turning it to Vice Chair Willis. Thank you.
And thank you, Priscilla. I just wanted to mention Vice Chair and Commission. So I think the spirit of the most recent revisions that we just went over, I think are appropriately in response to tightening up the process that we experienced with the Palomar and Tri-City, where following the statute, because we didn't have any local policies, there was no mechanism in that case for Tri-City to essentially appeal or request reconsideration, because the statute doesn't contemplate a non-affected agency in the way the statute's defined to engage the commission. So I think with the revisions, we're making it very clear, should those type of approvals be brought before the commission, and the commission would be making those, not the executive officer anymore, there would be this mechanism to at least hear out another city or district whose boundary or sphere includes the affected territory. So I just wanted to add that, and I appreciate both Commissioners Desmond and McKenzie adding that those revisions. So, Vice Chair, it's not a public hearing, but I know that we have at least one speaker, and we'll turn it back to you.
Before we go to the speaker, any further comments, questions from the commissioners?
Just real quick, and I know you did a great job explaining this, but the reason I put in that the amendment is because right now, or currently, only the applicant who asks for something has the right to appeal, not the jurisdiction that may be affected by the applicant's request. So my idea was both sides should be able to appeal any decision as opposed to just the applicant. And so that's why I thought it was fair if we allow both affected sides to appeal. So thank you very much. Did a great job, but I had to put it in my own words as well. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay.
I'll actually ask Priscilla, how's Cal LAFCO working on that proposed change that we've asked of them?
So last I heard, they're actually pausing on 56133 due to resources. They've directed them to other legislation.
And just for the context, so about 4 years ago, this commission, then Chair Jacob, directed and the commission approved going forward with a proposed change to the statute that we're all dealing with here, 56133, to essentially do in many ways what you're being asked to do today by way of local policy. That, because of the resource, the other side of that issue is it has strong objection from CSDA. That's the resource demand. But nevertheless, the local policy before you would, in many ways, remedy the concerns that the commission flagged 4 years ago, at least here in San Diego.
We will hear from John Kern now.
Thank you to the commission staff. My name is John Kern. I'm a partner with Holland & Knight, a law firm with offices throughout California and the U.S. I represent Palomar Healthcare District. I'm here today primarily to talk about agenda item 8D. Probably less to make a public comment in advance of that than to be available to respond to any comments other people have or questions the commission has. If there are any misunderstandings about the nature of Palomar's contract with Mesa Rock, or any misleading comments are made and other public comments that I feel we should respond to for the commission's benefit. But I did want to make a comment about some of the presentation in 8B, and I have to just admit in advance, this could be, I'm a litigator, and it could be the case that there's a moment in a hearing where you've made your presentation, the other side opposes, and the judge says something like rebuttal, or do you care to make any further comments before we take this under submission? And you sort of like think, I think we won. Sometimes the judge will look at you like, just sit down, because you won and you could only squander the victory at this point. So it might be the case that there's no need for me to make a comment about this, because I understand that there's a proposed rule change that you're considering, and I think all of us would be in favor of more process and more opportunity for, in this case, I think the example would be Tri-City having had an opportunity to appeal. But I sort of wanted, for the sake of the record, to clarify that this wasn't an issue of one party sort of having a right to petition and appeal, and another party being denied a right to appeal or challenge that led to a bad result. I mean, this was really very, very black and white issue of the fact that there were no services taking place outside of Palomar's healthcare district ever that are under the jurisdiction of LAFCO to regulate. So there was nothing, there were third-party ambulatory care organizations and OB organizations that are not under the jurisdiction of LAFCO that were going to conduct services. All services contemplated under the contracts that Palomar entered into rightfully, and that this commission did not have a right to overturn, and Tri-City would not have successfully been able to challenge or appeal. All of those services took place at the Escondido campus. There were no services taking place outside of Escondido campus. So that's really why that issue, I think, went exactly as it should. This rule change would have no impact on that happening again in the future, or would not empower another healthcare district like Tri-City to challenge it validly. So I just wanted to say that for the sake of posterity in the record. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? I guess we don't have anything online, Gail.
I'll move approval of item 8B.
We have the motion and a second, and this will be roll call vote, I guess. Any other discussion?
Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Mathis?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
And Commissioner Willis.
Yes.
We have 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. All right, and that brings us on to 8C.
I apologize.
Outreach and Education Plan update. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I'm going to ask Michaela to handle this presentation. And just for the benefit, I'm also separately going to be passing out something I should have passed out at the beginning of the meeting. It has nothing to do with this item, but I want to make sure that you have it. And awkward as it is, I need to pass it out. Michaela, go ahead.
What does it have to do with anything?
Before I get into my presentation, I want to welcome Michael Blackman and Rami Tale. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They're from the San Diego County Planning and Development Services, and they're collaborating with us on this grant. So just in case we have any questions that Priscilla and I can't answer, they're here for that. All right. I'm excited to provide you with another update on the SALC 2.0 grant. That's it. And specifically our efforts to enhance producer engagement for the remainder of the project. This update comes as a direct result of producer input from our last meeting. And since then, we've actively been working on our outreach and education strategy in response to the concerns raised by the public regarding community engagement opportunities. So before I get into how we plan to move forward, I want to take a moment to highlight some of the outreach that has already been done, and it's also shown up on the screen. So since September of last year, our collaborators at the San Diego County Planning and Development Services, or PDS, have been deeply engaged with producers and stakeholders in the local ag community. They have attended several local agricultural events, held meetings with the San Diego County Farm Bureau, attended an event held by the California Avocado Commission, spoken directly with producers, and even organized a virtual public workshop to gather feedback. But we want to take it a little further, and especially after hearing from local producers, we want to make sure that all voices are heard and we produce meaningful work in collaboration with them. So currently our focus remains on the market analysis as we continue to collect necessary data through a comprehensive data collection tool aimed at gathering relevant information on the 4 key crops. This tool has been sent to producers that participated in the first round of SALC, as well as others producing one of the 4 focal crops. And with this tool, we hope to receive real-time input from as many producers as possible to strengthen our analyses. We have also planned many additional workshops, working group sessions, a producer summit, and listening sessions to provide ample opportunity for producers to contribute their insights and ideas, with compensation being offered as recognition of the value they bring to the project. So in summary, our progress on SALC 2.0 has been marked by a strong commitment to meaningful stakeholder outreach, and feedback received from producers has been integral to the reshaping of our approach, and we remain dedicated to engaging stakeholders throughout the SALC 2.0 process, as their feedback and insight is essential to the success of the project. So with that, I welcome any questions or comments. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
That's a quick comment. I want to say thank you very much, Priscilla. Thanks for the presentation. I know you've been doing, Michaela, okay. I'll have to put Priscilla in here, okay, but anyway, throw him under the bus. But Michaela, thank you very much. I appreciate all the work that's been going out there. The ag community is huge and in our county, and they're in a tough spot right now, and they need all the help they can get. And that was the whole intent of the SALT 2.0. And I want to make sure we get this right and ultimately useful to our local growers. I've had a couple of phone calls from growers saying, hey, they don't quite understand this, if it's helping them or hurting them. So I appreciate the outreach, and the purpose it should be for them to learn from and for us to learn from and work directly with those who farm for a living and who are impacted by all these issues. There's high water costs, cheap imports from other countries. So I want to make sure we focus on the positive outcome for the growers in moving forward and making sure they're successful with this SALT 2.0. So I know you're doing that, but I had a few phone calls of people just didn't understand it. So I think the outreach will be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Michaela, how did it come about that Rick Engineering got involved? I'm just curious how that worked.
Yeah. Well, I know that I might just defer this over to Priscilla.
Okay.
Because she worked on SALC 1.0, so.
Yeah. So as part of, when we were game planning how we were going to approach the outreach strategy, as well as the strategic plan and the final report, and with the resources that we have, as well as county PDS, we thought, let's bring on someone who has a track record of doing a really good job on outreach and engagement in the county and in partnership with the county. So we brought them along as a consultant to help. And so they've been doing a great job. We have an outreach and education plan that they just drafted for us, and it's looking really good. So I'm excited for the events to come.
You felt they had the expertise for it?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so is this an action item?
Information only.
Information only, okay. Okay. Any other comments before we move on to 8D?
So there's 2 on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Who's number one? Who would like to introduce themselves? Or
Ox?
go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, hi. I'm the chairman of a group called the Avocado Growers of California. Commissioner Willis came to one of our meetings. We really appreciate that. And we are advocates for the local avocado farmers who exclusively grow and or pack avocados in Southern California, or in California, actually. But I was looking at the report, and I would like to add our name onto the list of those who you guys would like to collaborate with on page 42. That's possible. And I'd also like to advocate that the LAFCO reach out to legislators to support the Senator Welch workover, which includes certifying any groves in Mexico that are growing on illegally deforested land. That would be one good help. Other ways would be to maybe offer low-interest loans to help out alongside things like the crop swap program that only pay half the cost in some ways. And also, I noticed in the final report, you guys talk about being an advocate for us and help us navigating and implementing services. And one thing that we really need is a help of some sort of staff to move forward. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Dan. Go ahead.
Could we ask we didn't have our volume up, and I just totally.
Yeah. Dan, could you tell us who you are again and what organization? Dan, you still there? Go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Dan Cox, and I am the chairman of the Avocado Growers of California
Thank you.
Incorporated. A newly formed group that started, we actually incorporated in December.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
And we thank you very much. Do we have another speaker? Put him through. Her through.
Second speaker with the phone number ending in 718.
Hello,
Good
go
morning.
ahead.
My name is Eddie Grant. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Eddie Grangetto. I'm a local grower, a certified crop advisor, and co-founder of Escondido Growers for Agricultural Preservation. And I just want to thank you very much for the opportunity to make a comment. I wanted to start out with the principal goals of the SALT 2.0. And according to the information on your website, item number 1 is protect at-risk agriculture lands from sprawl. And that is very, very important. You can see that here in Escondido where we grow, and essentially our little property here has become an island in the urban network. Number 2, to avoid increases in greenhouse gas emissions. I can understand why this is very important for everyone. I think we're doing our part for the city of Escondido where we farm, and also in addition to that, we're going to be taking Escondido's wastewater to use on our agriculture, which is a huge benefit for the city of Escondido. My concern is using consultants that are not well versed in our local agriculture. I looked up Rick Engineering on their website. I don't see anything with expertise in any local agriculture. I don't see any reports. I don't see any experts on their staff. And I really wonder why in the world someone would pick that business as a consultant for our local ag. Number 2, ag impact. The only thing I can find online with those folks is perhaps they helped with a crop report, which really doesn't do a lot for local agriculture. Number 3, the example of the 2024 San Diego County Farm Operations Data Collection Questionnaire that was sent out. This type of questionnaire, I think, is way over the top. Again, it's almost like these businesses, these consultants just want to check off a box on their boilerplate type of program for collecting information. I can tell you as a grower, how in the world do we fill in a box that asks for the value of the sale when the sales of our commodities change every year? Also, the box that asks for pension and profit sharing plans. Well, for heaven's sake, a small farming operation doesn't have anything like that, and for the most part, most growers can't even afford insurance for their employees. My question is, why would a grower fill this out? A questionnaire should be much more basic. That brings me to what is LAFCO's expected return on investment with $500,000 of taxpayer money for this study? Again, according to the website, the spring-fall 2025 item is assist in bridging the economic gap and increase the economic sustainability of farming in the region. Well, I don't even think people can agree on what sustainability means.
Eddie, I'm sorry.
So,
We've got a 3-minute limit, but we want to thank you so much for your comments. We always welcome feedback, so we allow people 3 minutes.
Can I just say this? Certainly, if I have a little more to say on this or there's more input, why would you not accept that rather than going down this path and wasting our money and getting a report that is completely useless?
Yeah, we appreciate your feedback. We really do. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Right. This is not an action item.
I have a public comment through email as well.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is coming from Rick Carey. He says, below are the comments that I submitted for the last meeting. And he says, since then, MWD announced rate and property tax increases. SDCWA is pushing for a 39% increase over 3 years. USDA is paving a path for Guatemala to import avocados on top of the nearly 3 billion pounds Mexico alone intends to import with the help of U.S. packing houses. And for reference, California's entire crop last year was 257 million pounds. Water quality has declined significantly, reducing yields. Water costs. He says he has 12 acres in the Rainbow Water District, and his water bill for a 2-inch meter with 0 water in March due to rains was more than $750. The amount I paid for water last year was 90% of my revenue. This is unsustainable. Last year, the industry suffered the lowest returns due to a flood of imports, and now even more is projected this year. He says, I did not complete the survey. Frankly, it's infuriating to see this amount of time and money wasted on consultants, and water is too expensive, and much of the blame is due to bad decisions and commitments made by the SDCWA. There are more than 1,000 avocado growers in San Diego County. The top 50 growers in the county produced more than 20 million pounds last season. I wonder how many of them will be around next year. And that's it.
Okay.
Just real quick, can I comment on that? Just after hearing from a couple of the growers, and it seems there's frustration to what's being presented is going to be in the report and what they're having to deal with. So I don't know if there's ways we can, take their input. And I don't know if, I know we have a contract with, I don't know if it's Rick and maybe other partners, that really the intent is to try to help these people out instead of just telling them, here's your misery. And so if there's that opportunity, I'd like to see us offer, and I know it's not dollars or anything like that, but any help we can, I guess, through this report to help our growers would be help. I think it'd be a good idea. Thanks.
And then before we close out, I would just like to invite Michael or Rami to provide any comment if they'd like. Okay.
So no comments from PDS, and thank you, gentlemen, for attending. I do just want to say through the vice chair, we need consultants. We need Rick's engineering because this is a market analysis. This is a technical part of what has been now year 3 of 2 separate grants from the state of California. And the idea here is to provide independent information to help small farmers today, but also, more importantly, perhaps in the longer term, also help inform startup small farming operations. So we hear the frustration. I think once the report is produced, I think some of the concerns we're hearing will be addressed because the scope will become illuminated and purposeful. But we hear it.
Yeah, well, and I have no problem with Rick's, or but I do have just the frustration on the other end is getting louder. Thank you.
County and LAFCO.
So the data collection tool was drafted through Agricultural Impact Associates, and they have experience with ag reports. They came recommended from Agricultural Weights and Ag Weights and Measures, through the county. And so, we vetted them along with a couple other consultants, and we felt that they brought the expertise that we needed for this. So they drafted the data collection tool.
Okay.
And it's based off, and I can't remember the name of the Schedule F of the that farmers fill out each year. And so that's what we were hoping to help and simplify with
The income, the IRS form.
correct.
Okay. And I'm assuming then, since you vetted companies for creating the survey, you also vetted the various engineering firms who are, part of their portfolio is marketing?
Through Rick Engineering.
Yeah.
Right. So Rick Engineering came recommended through the county because they've done several projects with them. And so we did do a little vetting through that, and there's other consultants. I can't remember the names, but yes, there's another comment that you made and that I was going to address, but I can't seem to remember it.
Either Michaela or Priscilla, I would like the contact information for those last three, for me personally, because I would like.
If I could, I now remember. So the data collection.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. The data collection tool as well was also sent to producers to 4 specifically who were really involved as part of SALC 1.0 to gather some feedback. We unfortunately did not receive feedback, so we were thinking that that was a green light. So if there are, ways to improve, I certainly welcome that feedback on the data collection tool itself so that we can get that to, a revised version to the producers.
I also want to add that something that Eddie mentioned was why we didn't simplify the data collection tool. And the reason why we went with the way that we did was because we really want to quantify. We want to have a quantifiable analysis for this one rather than a qualitative. And we also sent out a survey in SALC 1.0 that was very simplified. So we kind of wanted to take a different approach this time.
What was your return? In other words, you sent out X number. How many did you get back?
We've sent out 5 so far, and we've received 2 back.
You only sent 5 out?
No. Well, we sent out another
5 surveys?
We sent out over 1,000 through Ag Weights and Measures, who has an email listserv.
And how many have you received back?
2.
Yeah. Well, that tells you something about the survey, I think. They looked at it and says, I don't have time for this.
We also only sent, so the initial, here's a data collection tool, we'd love some feedback, was sent out about 2 weeks ago, I'd say. And then once we did not receive any feedback and we said, okay, let's proceed forward with this data collection tool, we went ahead and set up 1,000, and that was done on Thursday. So it's still, it's only Monday.
Oh,
so
okay.
we're hoping that we'll receive some, and I think we gave about a month for producers to be able to take the time to fill it out. So it's still early on the 1,000.
Okay. Yeah, keep track of the of the numbers, because I know with surveys, it's like, this is too long, too complicated. Yeah, forget it. I'm not spelling it out. So, and I think I heard that same comment on the 2 that were online. So we'll see what the numbers come up with. Thank you.
If you could give me that contact information, those 3, I appreciate it. All right, so that finishes up 8. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
As you get responses, if it's significantly off from the 2 out of the 5, maybe you could just call a few people and ask them what their take is, because I'm wondering if the cover letter that invites them, your explanation makes perfect sense to me, but I think so often I get so much asking me my opinion, and they don't pay attention to it. I think that talking about how quantitative and how important it is, maybe just a tweak on the front end with a follow-up email in 2 weeks saying, hey, we really need these responses. We're making important decisions to you and your industry. That might be, but if you're getting 2 out of 5 responses, that's an incredible response rate. So maybe it's perfect the way it is. So thank you.
Executive Officer Report. Keen.
Well, actually, we have one more item under the business calendar.
Oh, okay.
And that is our consultant, Adam Wilson's going to give us an update on one of our top priorities that will go in next year as a continued top priority, Healthcare District MSR. Adam, thank you.
Thank you, Executive Officer. Good morning, Commissioners. Adam Wilson for the record, and here before you to provide a update on the municipal service review for the 4 healthcare districts in San Diego County. Real quick, with a brief refresher, as part of your adopted work plan, your commission designated this MSR as one of 2 high priority projects. This priority was cultivated through the matter between Palomar and Tri-City last year, involving the OB/GYN services, which surfaced a little bit in your discussions today. But maybe most notable, that matter stressed the importance to get an MSA or an MSR underway to evaluate the current and future landscape of public health care in our region. As part of our kickoff efforts for the project, we conducted extensive preliminary outreach from selected stakeholders to get general feedback and point us in the right direction. We met with all 4 CEOs, both individually and once collectively as a group, to share with them our intended efforts. We also attended board meetings for all 4 districts to notify them the purpose of the MSR and to invite their future participation in our process. From the beginning, we have demonstrated our desire for this process to be as inclusive as possible and get their buy-in that the end product will be a document that they can truly use for the betterment of their agency. Additionally, we conducted outreach and met with potential consultants, as we'll need expertise to help us navigate the complexities of healthcare services and their overall system. At this point, we're putting the final touches of the scope of work and a professional service agreement before a final selection. I do want to highlight a little what that scope will look like. We plan to take this MSR with a 2-phased approach. Phase 1 being a very macro level analysis that highlights major themes and takeaways and identifies key performance metrics and core fundamental issues with respect to municipal service functions. Phase 2 will be a more micro level and supplement the overarching issues by taking a deeper dive into the analysis. Lastly, and I presume what may garner most of your attention today, is related to recent news articles associated with both Tri-City and Palomar. I'm sure you recall last October, the Tri-City Healthcare District Board voted unanimously to form a JPA with UCSD as an operational partner. Last month, issues involving debt services and deferred maintenance have delayed that agreement. And as recently as last week, Tri-City nurses have voiced their concerns with ongoing staffing. I can share with you that through my contacts at UCSD, they remain confident a deal will get done and optimistic it being executed in the next couple months. As for Palomar, they've made recent news with their board approving a new management deal by moving their executive team into an outside private firm. We've met with Palomar officials to better understand the mechanics of this action, and we anticipate scheduling additional meetings to resolve any pending questions as we proceed with the MSR. And we have a letter that's in your packet today from Palomar that reassures their commitment to working and communicating with us, especially on that matter. I'll conclude with that and more than happy to entertain any questions, comments, or direction you may have.
For this. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't think I need to take up any time. It sounds like this is just an update, preliminary, so an introduction about the work to be done. But as I mentioned before, I'm sorry. Thanks, guys. John Kern with Holland and Knight for Palomar Healthcare District. Thank you again for letting me have an opportunity to speak. I would just say, if any of the commissioners or staff would like to have a conversation about either the news articles or anything, I'm more than happy to stay here as long as needed and talk with anyone who has any curiosities or questions or concerns. But it doesn't sound like there's anything to respond to today. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. That leads us to Executive Officer report.
I have just one quick question. I heard that there were going to be, something fell over, regarding a new consultant. Is that going to come back before the board as to what the contract is and who that person is? And rather than just having them show up at the meeting and, we've got a new consultant, and what their scope of work is?
So that's delegated to your executive officer. So no, unless the commission directs otherwise.
Okay.
Well, that's we're still working on finding defining a contract. We have a couple that Adam is negotiating with, if you will, on a scope, but no contract has been signed.
Does that answer your question, Joe? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now,
all right. Thank you.
I knew we were going to get to that.
Here we are. So in a second, I'm going to turn this over to Priscilla to give an update on the alternate public member ad hoc committee process. But I did just want to make a couple of staffing comments. So the commission did see a letter from Carol Errol-Niemann, who resigned from LAFCO, has taken a position with our SG, not RGS, which is our consultant, but another consultant, RSG, out of Los Angeles. It's a good opportunity for Carol, so we wish her well. And then Erica Sellen, our regular commission clerk, gave birth to a good-looking young boy, Jack Sellen, back in March. And so she, hopefully, will be back in the saddle, so to speak, in June. And again, I want to thank Michaela for doing double duty while Erica's been out. And then Priscilla, if you'd be kind enough just to give an update on the ad hoc process.
Short update, there's not a lot to report. There was an ad hoc formed at your March meeting. Commissioner White, Vice Chair Willis, and Chair Stephen Whitburn. I got the green light on a notice of vacancy and a game plan in proceeding forward with a recruitment. So now that I have that, I'm going to proceed with forwarding over the notice of vacancy to the UT. We'll post on our social media, so you'll see that, and on our website. And then as soon as we have some candidates, I'll forward those over to the ad hoc that's been formed, and you should have an update at your next meeting.
Very good.
Thank you.
Are you going to do any outreach to special districts to let them know and the cities rather than relying on the UT?
We certainly can. I can send to both of our advisory committees, perhaps. Okay, that sounds great. I can do that.
Okay.
Easy peasy with email.
Commissioner announcements and requests for future items. I have a request for future items, but I'll open it up to everyone else first. Anybody else? Okay. I have, in my personal beliefs, a really passion for the homeless. And Chris, Adam and I met the other day, and I'm intrigued, and I'd like to have it a topic of discussion in the future. Discuss a possible special district to address the homeless problem, and how we could set that up, how it could be used to make us more efficient countywide. And so I'd like to have that on the agenda, maybe if not the next meeting or the meeting thereafter. Discussion.
So through the vice chair, so you just adopted a work plan for 25 that does include a white paper on the topic that's going to look at governance options. So perhaps what we could do with your comment is filter that into an update, perhaps at the end of the first quarter of 25 on the status, just like we've done with healthcare districts and the wholesale water MSR. So we can get that at least real-time feedback first quarter 25. Thank you.
I'm just intrigued by the possibilities.
Thank you.
And I just, or under comments, I just want to acknowledge Eileen Delaney's in the room here today. She's the chair of the Fallbrook Planning Group. I just wanted to thank her for coming down and making the trip. Thanks.
Indeed. Any other commissioner announcements or requests? I guess we're up to adjournment.
Very good. Thank you.
Gavel. Gavel. You gotta get
Michaela.